I'll explain. All right, all right, all right. Guys, we are here. We are here. We had a lot of old city habitats crew coming together. Some of us are in offices, some of us are in bathrooms. Um, Dan, I'm not pointing you out specifically. Um, but you're in like a restaurant bathroom, right, Dan? Where are you?
I'm close to it. Yeah, it's a focus room, which you also focus in bathrooms. So all
I
one and the
love the.
same.
Okay, well, that's where I do my most focusing myself. So I
You
can
look like
resonate. And this,
you're the backstop of Comic Strip Live with the brick wall, right? Is that what they do?
yeah, that's
Get your
what this
little.
was.
It was good.
I converted it to like this farmhouse podcast studio thing here.
There you go.
I with my goats. I got goats over there. You know, I'm serious. I really got goats. Not even kidding. All right. Well, we're just messing around, guys. We got a good one for you today, guys. We got a good one. We're going to talk about industry best practices, and I got a lot of familiar faces here. And Juliet Clapp is the one that started this whole thing up and helped us organize that, senior vice president and managing partner of the Northeast region over at the agency. Juliet, thank you so much for being here. Itzy Garay. Itzy, I have known Itzy a long, long time. Senior Vice President, Executive Vice President, excuse me, Managing Director at Brown Harris Stevens. Thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, last but not least, coming to us from his restaurant bathroom, Dan Morello, Dan the Man, aka the Big D, Senior Managing Director over at Compass. First off, thank you guys for joining us today. I got some questions, guys. We're going to go over these questions, a couple of talking points, and then the users that are here today submitted excellent questions. So we're going to do 30 minutes on a couple of topics, and then the second half of this will be 30 minutes speed round with all of those questions that agents asked us. Okay, you guys ready?
Ready.
Yes?
Let's do
You're
it.
ready
It's
to
an
go.
honor to be here, Noah. Thank you so much for having us. It's great to have this panel with Itzy and Dan.
I love it. I love getting the crew together. This is very familiar to me. I love you guys, and you got great collective wisdom. So I'm going to try to extract that for everyone today. I want to start with one of the most common ambitions among agents, breaking into the high net worth segment, upping your game, raising your price points, etc., etc. We're going to explore what it really takes to attract and win over this clientele, how to position yourself, how to engage them once you have their attention, and what best practices top agents use to build trust and close deals at the highest levels. And Dan, I'm going to start with you. Let's just talk about getting them. Imagine you're sitting across from a billionaire who has three other agents pitching them. What separates the agent that they hire from the others?
Well, I'd say the good news is you're sitting next to a billionaire, so you've done something right to get in
Off
front
to
of
a good
them, right?
start.
Good.
Yeah. So I think that's the toughest part for agents is how do you get in front of a billionaire, right? How do you get in front of billionaires? And that's a whole nother strategy. I think penetrating the luxury markets, your hardest is getting that ball rolling, right? But if I'm sitting in front of a billionaire and let's say I'm pitching their listing, then I think the normal strategy of exposure needs to go out the window, and it's got to be more of a targeted approach of how I'm going to get them from A to Z, whether it be buying a home or selling their home. I'll give you a great example, which one of my top agents who really just he does like 12 transactions a year, but huge numbers. I call him an elephant hunter. He's always hunting like the big stuff, but he got pulled into a ranch. He's a New York broker, but got pulled in to help sell a ranch in Wyoming. And he was up against him and another broker. And him and his team got together and they came up with a strategy to pitch the owner. The strategy was to go after all of the tail numbers on the private planes that flew into the Jackson Hole airport for the last 2 years, track the owners down, and do a personalized campaign to these people, because that would be the highest likelihood of them buying this huge ranch in Wyoming. So I mean, that's on a broad scale, but you've got to have a tailored approach specific to that property that I don't think is so much about exposure, but more about targeted execution.
Well said.
I like that.
Target execution. Yeah, I like
Dan.
that too. Juliet, I'm going to go right over to you. Let's keep this thing rolling over here. What's
Yeah,
one
baby.
tool, presentation, or data point that you've seen in the open market that resonates with these luxury clients to help the agent win that deal?
You know what it is? The tool is really you. The tool is the agent. And today's agents working with these high net worth buyers is really knowing your data, knowing the niche of what they're truly looking for. You want to be such an expert on the $30 million property, the $40 million property. You want to know it inside and out. And you also want to know what those buyers are truly looking for. Do they want legacy? It's an asset class for them. Guys, don't forget that in this niche, the high net worth, we are in New York City. This is the global hub of the world. Buying in New York City is like buying a blue chip stock. It's buying an asset class. It's buying legacy throughout it. So the tool is the agent, being their advocate, knowing what is happening in that select niche, and also having deep, deep roots into global networking. You want to make sure that you know what's happening around the world, and also economic factors of where money is flowing from different feeder markets throughout the world. I think those are the main tools.
Is it also just about the being the expert on this market, or is there like a personal element that's also involved? Do you need to kind of build a relationship outside of real estate with these guys, or just do your job and be the best at what you are?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You want to be an advocate for these guys, right? And being an advocate and creating trust with them and creating that relationship is showing that you know what's happening in the market locally, you know what's happening internationally, and you also know what's happening, globally with market money trends and what's going on with economic headwinds. You're their trusted advisor. So you have to be that expert on multiple things. These buyers and sellers are smart, they're educated, they're worldly. They're buying not their first home, second home, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, right? So we need to work with them at that level and be their trusted advisor.
But no, to answer your question, there's not one thing you need to do. Like to Juliet's point, like I think the baseline is you need to understand that market, right? Like that's a prerequisite to working with somebody or to keep somebody working with you. But how do you penetrate the market is, I think broadly, is you got to swim in that pool, right?
Yeah.
You got to swim the pool.
Yeah.
Like agents' biggest mistake is like, I just want to work in luxury. Well, how are you
Gonna get
mingling with these people, right? You got to swim in the pool. Like two huge examples. I had an agent sent their kids to Avenues. One of their kids, I knew they couldn't afford it, but they sent their kids to Avenues, $100,000 a year, so they could swim in that pool. Another agent of mine joined a private club that cost her $35,000 to join. She knew the average net worth in that club was $4.5 million, right? So how are you going to swim in that pool?
And to add to that, Noah, you said, is this personal or, I think it's swimming in the pool is also where are they vacationing? Vacation where your clients vacation. Are they in St. Bart's? Where are you going? Where you have to put yourself, like Dan said, you put the kids in the school or you buy in a building. I mean, we know agents that have bought apartments and buildings and then become the broker in the building and all their businesses, in that one building. But you're sort of, your whole life kind of revolves around that. You're vacationing where they are, your kids are going to the same schools, you're in the same clubs. It's just a different level and it's all intertwined. I don't think there's separation, especially, and they all speak to each other, so you're really intertwined in there.
Yeah.
I think you make a great point with the global, right? Because people are, all over internationally buying like their vacation homes, like you said, in Mallorca or in Portugal and things of that nature. So I think as agents, we have to have our pulse on what's happening globally in other global markets, especially some of our main feeder markets, your Dubai, your London, Miami, right? We need to keep our fingers on the pulse because our clients are talking about what's happening there. We need to know as well.
Yeah. Itzy, this question kind of is a derivative of what we're just talking about here. Do agents overestimate the importance of personal connections and underestimate the role of preparation when dealing with the ultra wealthy?
I think that the relationships, they get you in the door, but your knowledge is what's going to close the deal. So the relationship gets you in the door, but you need to come prepared and you need to, it's not, I think, just showing up and saying, I'm going to show you this 4-bedroom on the Upper East Side, it's not enough anymore. Or I'm going to just come with some comps. You have to have such an in-depth knowledge of the market of buildings. You need to know if you're talking about a building, the agents at the high net, like that work with high net worth or the top of the game, they know if you mentioned the C line in this building, it faces east or that building has low ceilings, just the level of knowledge that you need to have. And you do that by getting out there, going to see the product. There should never be a day that you're not growing or learning, and you have to go in prepared. Like I'll say it again, The relationship gets you in the door, but knowledge is what's going to close the deal. So you got to show up and you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to come in with data, expertise, and just like at a different level, zoning information, architecture information, know about the architects, the designers. It's another level, I would say.
And my recommendation on that is if you lack the expertise or you lack the resume, you have to bring in another agent,
I
right?
would agree with
Because
that. Mhm.
like if you're walking in the door and you're saying, oh my God, 20 million or whatever the number is, and you're counting the dollars at which you can make, I'm going to tell you that your probability of landing that listing, if you've never done that before, are probably fairly low. So you want to offset that risk by bringing in somebody who's a professional expert in that specific asset type until you build your own resume.
Yeah, they're gonna
That's so well said. It's all
they'll
about the
sniff that
client.
out, right?
Yeah, it's all about the client.
Oh.
We have to discuss the
That's
client. So
100%. I
Yeah, we
just
get
had
that.
an agent come in, they have an opportunity because they know an executor of an estate, and it will be a huge property to sell here in New York. And she knew she doesn't work in that world, the 20, 30, 40 million on Park Fifth, and she's going to bring in the best person to do it and help her get it. And that's like Dan said, if you don't know, bring somebody in, collaborate. You'll learn, you'll grow, and it'll make you look good. And the other thing about this network, this high that I want to add is they talk to each other. So when you do a good job, the word is going to spread amongst the friends. But when you're not prepared or you're not offering this level of service, that word will spread as well. So
Yeah, you just got to get in the pool, right? You just got to get a couple. You just got to get one or two to get the ball rolling.
You got to get the ball rolling.
Get it going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes
All right,
off.
well, I remember when I was a young kid studying at Union College, I interned at Morgan Stanley. Full head of beautiful hair back then, a lot of hopes and dreams still in my life going on. Anyway, I digress. I was interning at Morgan Stanley in the summertime, and the broker told me, Noah, it's all about the golf course. All the deals are made on the golf course. And she didn't really mean the golf course per se, but what she's saying is, no, you got to get out with these people. You got to spend some time with these people. You got to understand them on a personal level, and then your expertise will come out on that course, and then they'll do some business with you and tell all their friends. It's pretty much the exact same thing, but in real estate.
Yeah.
And that's how these guys think.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. Good stuff. I want to move on. I want to move on to the next main topic. I want to talk about buyer broker agreements, but we're going to talk about best practices. I know you guys, the agents here are probably tired of hearing about this topic, but we're going to talk about how to use this to your advantage, right? How to discuss how to clearly articulate your value as a buyer's agent, how formal agreements can actually strengthen your business rather than scare clients away. Dan, I'm going to start with you again. A buyer says, why should I sign this when I could just work with any agent I want? How do you respond in real time?
But all the other agents are terrible. No, I'm joking. I'd say that's exactly why it makes sense, is so you're not juggling multiple agents and you hire one professional to fully account for your best interests, right? Because if you're not hiring anybody specific, then you have a bunch of people not working for you.
No, that's well said.
Yeah.
You have that commitment. And also for the agent as well, right? It's nice to know, it feels good to know they're dedicated to you as well. That type of professionalism that you have with your sellers, they're solely hiring you. With their buyers, they're solely hiring you.
Right.
Yeah. And I think where this elevates our professional across the board is like buyer's agents used to never even have to have this conversation. Right. It was like, well, why do you work with me? Oh, I'm free. Just come with me. No problem. Right. And that literally was the pitch, and it's insane. And the buyers actually never even knew what you were getting paid or how you were getting paid. You were just this free service. And if you think about it, the amount of money people made, that's insane, right? So like now you actually have to sit down as an agent, articulate your value, get somebody to hire you, right? And then you can make a lot of money, right? But now it makes you think and say, wow, I may have to elevate my game here as a buyer's agent in order for me to compete. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and also this is a great time, right, Dan? Like how you mentioned, to show your value and really think about it. Being an agent is hard work, right? And working with a buyer. I think the last buyer when I was brokering before I managed, I think I worked with that buyer for like 2 years. It was like eating bread and water, for 2 years, right? So like this is, think about what you do. You don't just open a door and turn on the lights. That's not what agents do today. You know, we have to have our finger on the pulse of what's happening, you know, in every market, in that niche specifically. You need to know, like how Itzy mentioned before, like building knowledge, you know, board knowledge, your, you know, expertise in a neighborhood, you know, you need to negotiate. It's hard freaking job, you know, and this is your time to show your value and build that trust and have an opportunity also to have transparency. Transparency is how you build the trust. You know, this is, I'm working for you. You're working with me. I'm going to find you your home, you know, your biggest asset in your life, or maybe one of the largest investments in your life. And you're trusting me to do that. And I'm going to do a damn good job. And that's my value.
Juliet, I love you, Juliet. I need to get you on here more often. Itzy, let's go right to you. What's one line or framing device you've seen shift the buyer from hesitant to comfortable signing?
I think you have to look at it like it's a service agreement. It's not, you're not locking them in, they're locking you in. And you have to sort of shift the mindset, your mindset and theirs, that this is for me to work exclusively for you. And this is a service agreement. I'm going to show, you know, I'm going to show up for you. You've got me, my full attention, my full commitment. And I think switching it, not making it like they're signing a contract or signing their life away to you, but they're signing a service agreement with you, and they're locking you in because now I'm going to work for you. And I think that sort of shift in the mindset, everything I think that we will discuss is always going to be about your mindset and how you show up, how you come into something. You know, you come into something saying, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. They're not going to want to pay me anything. You can't look at it that way. You have to look at it like you're going to get me and everything I bring to the table. And like Dan said, you have to be prepared to articulate your value, but you have to shift the mindset and say to them, this is a service agreement. This is an agreement that I'm going to do all of this for you. And here are all the things I'm going to do for you. And I think that that's just, it's a little tweak in how you perceive this.
Yeah, it's the confidence, right? Like be confident in who you are, your ability, and what you're going to do for your client. And when they feel that confidence, you know, then that's where you also build that trust, right?
Yeah. And you say,
what about the timing, Juliet?
Don't be afraid of it. Don't be shy. Don't be scared of it, right? They can sense your fear, right? Also, they can sense, remember back in the day, they can sense when we're broke, right? Oh my God, please buy this. You know, they can sense that, right? So walk with that confidence and like, listen, you know, I'm going to be working solely with you. You're going to be working solely with me. You know, you have my devoted attention, time, and I'm going to work my damn hardest to find you the best home or investment for you, you know, and I'm in it, and you got all of me, you know? So I think that's where you build that trust. And I think that's kind of go for it, guys. Don't be afraid of it. Jump in there. You know, you deserve it. You work damn hard for your money.
And on to Itzy's mindset. It's funny, you know, a year ago before this was mandatory for them to use, the mindset for the majority was, we're going to go out of business.
Yes.
No one's ever going to sign this. Our fees are going to go to zero. And then there was the few agents that said, this is actually a great thing. My closing ratio is going to go up because everybody's going to be bound by an agreement, right? And I believe my value proposition is better than 90% of the agents out there. So I just have to articulate that. Yeah. And those people thrive.
You know, and Jen, you bring up a good point. Like it's all that noise, right? And all that fear whenever there's change, right? And there's been constant change in our industry since I got in it 23 years ago, right, guys? Right. So we've been living through all these changes and we get over that hurdles, you know, but it's human nature. We understand that. It's on our jobs to, you know, work with our agents, help coach, you know, and make sure that they feel more confident and comfortable. But I think that's what we're doing here today. So
and I wanted to say one more thing to the agents that are looking at the obstacles that might be out there. Don't look at the obstacles. If there is something that you think is an obstacle, figure out how to overcome it. I just saw a comment in there about, oh, what if I don't have access to I couldn't read it quickly, but you know, don't focus on so much on what you can't get or what the issues are. If there is something, then find a solution. Look for the way to make phone calls. This is why relationships is also very good with your colleagues. And, you know, we always talk about the clients and the customers, but I think there's the equal importance with your colleagues, and that's going to help during these tumultuous times.
Wait, and to add to that too, Itzy too, like in this, you know, industry, I like how you said that it's not just creating the relationships with our clients, but it's also treating other brokers that you're working with as well, if not better than your clients. right?
Yeah.
Because we all know, and we've all been there, when you have a broker on the other side of the deal that you know, like, and trust, it
Yeah.
makes the transaction that much smoother. And when you
Yep.
guys are both in it together, you know, and working with the attorneys and the banks and whatnot, it just makes it so much easier to get something done. And also be mindful and kind to those that are newer in the industry. You know, you were new once, right? You had your first deal once. I remember my first deal, I was like shaking in my boots, couldn't even turn the freaking key. I was shaking so hard, right? Like I remember that day, my first rental at City Habitats, you know, and thank God the work on the other side saw my nervousness, and she's like, "Are you new?" And I'm like, "Yes, help." And she's like, "No worries, I got you." And I love her. She works at Corcoran, and I still think of her all the time. You know, like, so you've all been new before. So I think it's important that treat everybody with respect and kindness. And, you know, this community is tight and it's small, really, you know, if you think about it, and creating relationships with everybody. You know, every firm is good. They're just all different. And every age,
different cultures.
Yeah.
I feel like you know what you just said there helps to reduce friction, even like if the deal's getting close and it needs to just bridge a small gap. If you happen to have a good relationship with the agent, even though you're both representing different sides, I think gathering intelligence and conveying information, it just helps the deal get closer together.
Yeah,
So,
and also when there's a good agent on the other side that you've worked with, or no, you're like, "Oh, thank God," right? You're like, "Oh God, thank God Itzy's on the other side." You know, thank God Dan's on the other side. We think of that as managers when there's issues or concerns going on with one of our agents, and I have to call Dan and be like, "Hey, how you doing? Something happened over here." And Dan's like, "All right, what?" You know, and we work
And I
it
answer,
out.
what now, Juliet?
What now?
What do you want? Right? But because
be a
we all
fly on the
know
wall
each
for
other,
that.
it works. We trust each other, and we can be honest with each other. Like, listen, we have a sticky
Right.
situation. Can help. Work with me on it.
We look for solutions.
We look for
We look for solutions.
Okay. All right, we're going to go right on to the last question here. And then when we're done with this question, we're going to go to speed round because I got a whole bunch of questions and I think it's going to get nice and juicy. But I first want to talk about the elephant in the room that a lot of people don't want to talk about. I mean, a lot of us agents are having these conversations with buyers and sellers about the upcoming mayoral election. These are difficult conversations to have. So I want to just talk about this for a little bit and get some thoughts from you guys on ideas or discussions of how agents can navigate this climate. Dan, I want to start with you again. I don't know how you just got first on all this, but that's what happened. Yeah, sorry about that. A seller tells you, "I'm waiting to see who wins before to list. I'm waiting to see who wins the election to list." What's the best way to advise them?
I would say anybody who tries to time a market loses, right? And there's always some sort of noise, whether it be politically or economically going on in the market, right? The city will continue to go on. There's always some sort of political uncertainty. I think it's about your need right now and where you want to get to that we should focus on.
And a good point too,
You
right?
know,
Like,
and then you could give like the worst case example, like let's talk COVID, right? In March, anybody who tried to say New York's not coming, there's all the doom and gloom that New York is dead, no one will ever come back. Anybody who bought in between March and September of 2020 did very well, right? So you could say if people are pausing, if it was me, if people are pausing because of this election, I would look at that as an advantage and I would try to enter the market and negotiate a really good deal for myself.
yeah, I think that's so well said. And I think also too, you know, successful people in any business focus on what their goal is. And your goal is to help your client buy an apartment or sell an apartment or rent, right? So that is your focus. And when you lean into too much noise, that takes away from focus. And when you take away from focus, you're taking away from your business. How much time have you spent with all the noise that's been going on, you know, with obviously the election, political debates, global events, and it just takes you away from what your job is, right?
Distractions.
You need to know it's just distraction, right? And that weakens success. Distraction weakens success. So don't lean into it, but acknowledge it. You know, if your client's like, "Hey, you know, I'm nervous about what's going on," make sure you hear them, you understand them. That's again where you build the trust, you know, and you can say, "Listen, I know there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. I get it. Let me tell you, sometimes with policies and new politicians coming in, Some of the policies will happen, some won't. I mean, have we
Right.
ever seen that before? I think I've seen it with every single one, right? So, and if new policies do come into place, they're going to take time. Policy changes do not happen overnight. So then get your client, and New York City has weathered so many administrative cycles and so many unknowns, but the fundamentals are completely the same. So you got to kind of drill back in, like, what is your client's motivation? Are they looking to like flip in the next, 6 months, 12 months? Okay, that might be a factor. But they're looking for what really matters to them for the long term: legacy, a home, an asset. I mean, New York is pretty freaking resilient, as Dan just mentioned. COVID, we thought the whole world was going to fall apart. They all left for the suburbs. Nobody's coming back. Guess what? They're back. And your luxury market's on fire right now. So there's a lot going on in New York City. And I think, we just got to kind of cut out the noise, but make sure that we listen to our clients, we understand them, we keep them focused on what their goal is and what they really want to achieve.
All right. I have a little data geek answer to this question. A seller tells you I'm waiting to see who wins before the list. The election's what? Early November, November 4th, right? If you have a seller that is telling you that they're going to wait, so what are they going to do? They're going to list November 10th.
And then what's going to happen?
I'll list December 1st. You got the fall season, which is right now, right? I mean, like the optimal time for a seller to list is right now if you're going to take advantage of the fall season, regardless of what's happening out there. If you're going to list and you're going to list after the election, I would just consider that spring market. Don't list in the winter time, December, January. It's not the best time. Itzy, what specific talking points help you keep clients focused on fundamentals rather than political speculation?
Well, I think you need to stick to the data. I think, like Juliet said, if a client is, I find that there's a lot of heightened emotion right now around this, and you can't meet emotion with emotion. So we need to be the trusted real estate advisors and listen to what the clients are saying, and then talk to them about what their real needs are. Real estate's a long-term game. So is someone acting out of emotion and they're worried, like you said, they're going to list now, November 10th or something? Is that what really makes sense for them? Get to what their long-term goals are. I would say elections are short-term cycles, right? So real estate's long-term asset, and long-term goals. So I think stick to data, stay fact-based, take the noise, like you said, Juliet, get out of that noise and just focus, and then help them make an educated decision, not a decision based on fear, because that is never good. So they need to just, are they selling because they're worried that the city's going to collapse all of a sudden? And is that what's motivating them? Or do they really need to sell because there's a life change? Like, focus on what their needs are, what their goals are, short and long term, and stick to data and facts, and help listen, be, sympathetic and empathetic, understand what they might feel, but then help them focus on what their needs and goals are so that they can make an educated decision, not a decision based on emotion and a decision based on fear of the unknown. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing, right? I mean, like, we're kind of in like an uncertainty cloud right now. And like, guys, just to like be completely honest with you, that the chances are high that uncertainty is just going to rise as we get closer to the election, because you're going to get a lot of headlines, a lot of media coverage. Everyone's going to get drawn into this thing. And then after the election, no matter how it turns out, there's a good chance that uncertainty, which is probably going to peak right before the election, is going to go straight down regardless of who wins, right? And policy changes that may or may not happen over the next 3 or 4 years. So there's a difference with this uncertainty principle. There's like a psychological uncertainty principle that's lingering over buyers right now and sellers. That will go away after the election, most likely. It did last year. Remember the national election, it was the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's correct.
And a lot of people made decisions. They were holding decisions, and then they made decisions after the election, regardless of which way it went. So
right, and that's well said. That's kind of like also what Dan mentioned before. Like, everyone's like, I'm leaving New York, or I'm staying, or whatever your beliefs are. But there was so much uncertainty, and we weathered through that. Like, we're going to continue. Like, this is the real estate world. This is transacting in New York. There's going to be uncertainty, and there's a lot going on.
This is what you get.
That's what you get.
This is what it
No,
is.
you said on
Fastest market out there.
Yeah,
the
you said
toughest
on
market.
that panel, like what I can, there's certainly uncertainty consistently, right? You kept saying that on that
Yeah,
panel.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Uncertainty.
All right, guys. Speed round. Speed round. Let's get
Okay,
out of
here
this
we go.
crap.
Oh, here
Let's
we go.
get this
Come on.
going.
Put your seatbelt
There's
on.
one rule and one rule only.
Uh-oh.
60 seconds or less answers, guys.
Okay.
60 seconds or less answers. We're
We
trying
got
to get
timers
through this.
And or what's going on?
I don't have a timer. I should. But
My
we-
money's
we-
not on Juliet in this race.
No.
but-
Okay. We
My
should
money-
also like
Dan, I
track
love,
winners.
I love you for that. You're always my biggest supporter. We're such great partners for so many years. I mean, you've always been my trusted.
Even this is going to go on for more than a
best
minute.
friend.
See?
Yeah, here we go.
Sherry Cohen.
All right. All right. We're going to go right into it.
Go
Dan.
by the
Here
day.
we go.
You know what? Go, baby.
All right.
I'm
Here we go.
gonna relax.
And remember, whoever wants to answer, just jump right in. Okay. Because we got a lot to go through.
Okay.
What are the best investments agents can make in their own business right now?
Themselves.
Okay.
Investing in
good.
yourself. Constantly growing.
Education.
Getting better
Okay.
what you do every day. Like, I'm a constant student of leadership. My agents are constant students of their business, of growing it, elevating it, educating themselves, transitioning, pivoting, being flexible,
Okay.
killing it. Ha, Dan.
Learn AI to help you. Learn AI to make you more efficient. Utilize.
Yes,
Ooh.
learn AI, but
Oh.
also be mindful.
Oh.
Like, I think this whole AI world is fine, and I think it's a fine tool, but the biggest tool is you.
100%.
Technology, remember when
What? Itzy, what do you mean? In what ways?
And
What ways?
okay, so learn AI to make you more efficient, help you with your marketing, with writing, with information, but
Copy.
just to be with copy, but to be clear, it will never replace you. So I don't think that, but I think you need to be smart and learn how to use it to help you become more efficient in your day-to-day.
The real AI is agent intelligence. We've been
Yes,
saying that
that's
for
true.
a year and a half now, right?
Yep.
Dan, go ahead.
I'm going to say the best investment would be to hire either an assistant or a virtual assistant to do all the things that you don't do, you need to have to do, so you can get in front of more people.
I like that.
It's who, not how. Go read that book on
Right.
Amazon. I love that. And since I've been taking that philosophy, I've gotten 60 things off my plate every day, and I could actually try growing my company, not running my company.
And
All
product
right.
knowledge, know the market. That's
Yes.
the number one. You have to know the market.
And
What
we're on to
consist-
business.
What consistent daily, weekly practices separate agents who thrive year after year from those who plateau?
They have a plan every day. They come in with a plan. Go. Sorry, Dan, go. You want to go
No,
first?
plan person.
Number one is consistency. I always say that if I sat in front of 1,000 agents and said, if you make 10 phone calls a day, 5 days a week, would your business go up? And everybody's hand goes up. 950 people leave that room and they don't do it. Right? The agents, and this is why we all have jobs, by the way, because if they listened to us, they wouldn't need us anymore. But it's consistency. It's the agents that do consistent work on lead generation are the ones that win the game.
I believe in that. And I agree with that 100% consistency, but I also am going to go a little personal. Gratitude. Working on yourself is as important as working on your business, right? You show up as yourself in your business. So every day, I think it's important to wake up and just be grateful for all the wonderful things in your life and to have that mindset, because I've been doing incantations my whole life and it takes a lot to get me down. And it's only because I'm very emotionally strong, because I practice gratitude and things that I'm thankful for every single day. So also work on yourselves as individuals. I believe in that personal wellness.
So I guess that kind of fits into this. It says, how can time blocking and smart organization help grow a real estate business? Is basically that related to that there, Dan?
Yeah.
100%. I mean,
yes.
people say that like, oh, this is a business about architecture or whatever. No, it's about lead generation, right? So if you don't have leads, you can't use your people skills to, you don't get to use them. So your day has to be structured on lead generation. Everything you do is about lead generation. Now, granted, yes, you have to service your clients, you got to close the deals, but you don't have those without the leads.
And find a way to find that time to have the consistency, right, Dan? And I remember as an agent, one thing I did to make myself focus on my marketing, because I would never do it consistently, never, right? I was so bad at it. I think it's a struggle for a lot of us as agents, is I'd actually have in my calendar, every Friday, 9 to 12, $40 million client. And that was me, because I'm worth $40 million. So in order for me to not do what I need to do for my marketing, it better be worth more than that to myself, right? So that's how I did it. But find what works for you. You know, as everyone's different, every agent's different, but find what works for you to be consistent, whether that's time blocking or having accountability buddy or having your manager remind you or have someone beat you, whatever works best for you. Just throwing it out there, but find a way to be consistent. I agree with Dan on that for sure.
All right, this is good because I got a whole bunch of lead generation and client acquisition questions. So let's spend 5 minutes on this quick.
Okay.
What are the most effective strategies for getting new leads today?
Calling people, get on the phone.
Okay.
Number one, marketing number one. It's not a text. It's not an email. It's not a pretty postcard. It's meeting people in person first and foremost, getting on the phone, you know, and speaking to them, and then getting to know their friends, their network, you know, engage more. But get in front of people. Some people are afraid of the phone, and I get it. I used to be too. I get it, right? Brain train yourself, get psyched up, do what you got to do. Meet people in person first, on the phone second, or maybe you have to make the call to make the coffee appointment. We get it. And then get to know them more deeply, but deepen your relationships. And you're better off not having a wide spread of thousands of people in your network or your contact list. You know, focus on your top 20, your center of influence or your sphere, however you want to define it, and have a deeper relationship with those people and go wider, in deeper with them, but wider within core networks.
I 1,000% agree with that. We always had the mindset of I have 30,000 people my newsletter gets, and like you don't even know 29,000 of them.
Yeah.
Right. Where now it's like you shrink it down to such a manageable number, and it's like, how can I really manage these people? That's dinners, coffees, calls, Yankee games, you name it. Like super tight.
I would
Anybody's
agree
been doing the business, been in the business for more than 10 years. You have enough transactions where hopefully that you have that list of people. That's your list of people. Those are people you transacted with.
I would when we talk time block lunch with this one. You know, every day you're going to have lunch or coffee with someone. Connect with people. I think we have gotten away from, we're so used to texting with people and this instant, and we've gotten away from seeing people in person and connecting with them. And I think just setting that up, whoever it is, and be strategic in who it is that you are connecting with. Like I think Dan and Juliet sort of mentioned, you want to connect with the people who are feeders for you, who are connectors as well. And don't do everything, you know, just because you're trying to do, but have it be someone you want to spend some time with too. But Noah's saying no.
No. I'm saying this is great. Like I love it.
But I would, when we talk time block, that's something I consider to be a time. You block in. I'm going to have lunch every day this week with someone new. I'm going to have a coffee with them. I'm going to spend 9 to 10 calling Juliet, Dan, Noah, and connecting with people.
You're pointing out all of the things I'm doing wrong to build my advisor business, which is supposed to get leads in, and I'm supposed to do 10 videos a day to you guys to get advisor leads in, and I'm not even doing one yet, and I'm finding the list of 1,000, and they're like, focus on 20. All this stuff is like, I'm not even in real estate.
Listen,
I'm in a different sector.
If it's too much, then just say to yourself, I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to do one lunch a week. You know, make it manageable for yourself. Don't set some goal.
One a day. One a day is what I'm accomplishing, and then I could do 2 a day, and then 4 a day, and I can work from there. But you got to reverse it and go the other way around is the main point. Moving on. How do you convert expired listings and motivate those sellers to get back on the market?
I don't know.
I shut all you guys up. I get one for Noah.
First of all, make sure it's definitely expired, you know, because a lot of agents, need to check that. Make sure it's definitely expired. But I mean, so what do? You call the seller, you say, hey, I see it was on the market before. You know, I see that it's no longer on the market. It was on the market for 6 months. You're no longer working with the broker, right? Make sure that's clear up front, best in class. And then, how was your experience? What happened? Find out their motivation. I decided I'm no longer moving to LA. I'm staying in New York. Okay. That's not going to work. That's not, just keep them on your prospect list if you'd like, or you know what? My agent, they did this, they did that. So, basically they didn't lower the price because the agent probably gave them that suggestion. Right. But maybe take the opportunity with your new strategy and your new relationship with them and remarket it, relaunch it, best way possible with storytelling, which is how I like to look at how we market our exclusives, focus on the lifestyle, et cetera, and get it back on the market. But it really comes down to the motivation of that client and finding out, what their experience was.
So
and how
discover, go into discovery. Go into discovery. What happened? How was your experience?
Yeah.
Don't sell. Just
No.
understand
Don't sell.
what happened. What could we have done different? Okay.
Yeah, don't sell. Don't get me wrong. I know that's what we do for a living. Create the relationship, be authentic, find out what happened, probing questions. So they build some trust with them, build that relationship with them, and then share with them, what you can do. Again, your value proposition. You've been in the market for X period of years and you have great expertise and you're damn good at what you do, and let them know that. I think being a broker.
I would add also, oh, sorry, Jules, let me let you finish.
No, I'm good.
No, just add, depending on when they were on the market and what's happening now in the market, like if the market shifts, if we have, rates go down, hey, rates have gone down, there's more buyers out there now. You have to have some context to also where the market was at the time it was on and what's going on. So again, back to, knowledge and data, but I think you could use that to your advantage.
Good. I want to keep this moving, guys. 18 minutes left. How do you handle a seller who says your commission seems high? Somebody else came in and offered less. What do you
get what
say?
you pay for. So I just up 9 to 7%.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think that goes back to, you have to sell your value. You have to be really strong in what you bring to the table, what you're going to do. And that person, let them come in. You can get someone that's going to charge you 1%, 2%, but what kind of service are they giving you? And I think you really have to hone in what you bring to the table and say, I'm worth it. This is my value. And that person, can do.
Yeah.
I think that's so important.
I would also have a couple of key past recent clients that you have as testimonials to pull out and just say, why don't I just share with you what other people have said about my service, kind of a thing, and have that ready to go. Like that should be a condition, for every listing agreement is that, what you give me.
I would approach and say, I only offer 0.5% more than most of my competitors, but you get a premium product.
Cool.
Or something to that effect.
All right, let's see here, guys. I want to touch on marketing and social media real quick. We got so many categories here. What are the best practices for creating engaging social media content that actually will drive business?
Videos. Sorry.
Okay. Short form videos?
Short form
videos. Yeah. And I also, and property tours. I think I like seeing the person, showing the property, walking through the property, speaking to the property. I think that's been very effective. So I think video content is very important in social media.
I agree. Video content.
Also being statistical, showing, your niche or those that follow you, your followers, that what's happening in the market. So I think any stats you can show what's happening like quarterly, or even if you want to even do a video of yourself about what you see happening. I think they like that personalization.
I think digestible data.
Yeah.
Digestible market. I would just say, add context to data is what I would say. Like, don't tell people numbers and all that. Tell them temperature, for example. Like, is it challenging? Is it easy? Is it active? Is it slow?
Well, Noah, that's what you do, right? Well, like UrbanDigs.
I think so.
I think that's why, we all resonate with you, is that you actually put it into like layman's terms, so that we can understand.
Hard.
Numbers are numbers, but you're right. But you have to make sure that you can explain it and bring it home for your clients. There's context to it.
I like when he uses the red pen and with his red pen, not when he does his
no one does his red pen.
My name is Simon and I like to do draw rings. All right. Is it better to focus on one social platform or spread your efforts across several others?
Oh, well, each platform's different, right? So I think.
Yeah, but what are the top? Like, what are the most effective?
Instagram is my top.
My answer would be, what is it that you are the best at, and what do you enjoy doing? More? Do you find LinkedIn is more resonates with you, and that's, or are you in Insta? I think it's about the individual. It's not about the platform. It's about what are you really good at? What do you enjoy? Because if you try to do everything and it's just too much, then you're not going to do anything well. So pick one that you're really good at, that you really enjoy doing.
I think also I think it's well said. Itzy, you're right. Like, be authentic to you. And I think agents too, they get so overwhelmed as I do, on all these things to do, right? For marketing, learn this new technology, do this, do that. And it's like, again, more noise, and it's great to have all these tools and assets, but there's just so many you can master. And I struggle myself today on which social media, platform am I going to be focusing on? And, oh, I forgot my LinkedIn. No, I only put this on the Insta. Like, and it's overwhelming. So I think like, I like Itzy's suggestion, maybe focus on one that you're really comfortable with and, fits who you are. And then you could expand. And then the other thing too, I think with social media, and this might be different from what most people think, but I really feel that, some people think, agents or any business owner, they look at themselves as like a billboard and like, oh my God, I got 1,000 likes. Yay, I'm so popular, right? So I think what we forget is that it's a reminder, of course, and if you have good content, why it's out there, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for you to re-engage with people, right? So if someone like likes it, or if somebody comments, get on the phone and say, hey, Bob, how are you? I saw that you saw my post. How are things going? Look at as a reason to re-engage. You're not just a billboard. Like that's part one. Like anything in marketing, there's part one and there's part two. Part one is actually putting up the social media asset, right? That's mindful, strategic, goes with your brand, thoughtful. Part two is now what are you going to do with it? Just look at pretty. So you want to just be like, oh, I got 100 likes. Yippee. Who gives a shit? Sorry.
Shout out to
opportunity for you to be like, oh my God, these people commented. I haven't had a chance to reconnect with them. Let me do that in a deeper, mindful, meaningful way. And that would be meet them in person or get them on the phone. That's
and shout out to Jesse Kent, who is our master.
Oh, I love Jesse
over at Daring Doe, and he always says the sale is made in the follow up. The sale is made in the follow up, and those that know
everything you do.
I think that agents' biggest misconception is that they're going to generate all this business from Instagram or social, and I think it's just one piece of your whole marketing strategy that helps you tie it all together, right? It's like I always give the example, like imagine Bank of America only advertised in Yankee Stadium, right? No, they have touch points all throughout someone's sort of life journey.
Right. Okay, guys, let's keep going. What are the most successful approaches to prospecting without being pushy? Is it newsletters? Is it mailings? Is it calls? Is it events?
In person.
Without being pushy.
Providing information of value.
Yeah, being a resource, right, Dan? Like being a resource to your.
So a digestible market temperature update versus, hey, look what I just listed, look what I just sold, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say like we had a mortgage broker. We had a client actually get a 4.9961 ARM or 10-1 ARM recently, right? I'm like, that's a great time to pick up the phone and speak to every buyer that you've worked with over the last year that hasn't bought, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and if you're on the fence, like, hey, just want to let you know, I'd love to make an intro if you're interested. I have a mortgage broker who's able to do this type of loan product, right? I mean, that's just one idea of many different things.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I know of a 25-foot wide townhouse in the West Village that's coming on the market soon. Like, would you know anybody? Like, that's a stock tip almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Also,
little things like that.
We have people that say, how do I re-engage and prospect my buyers that have gone stale and are limbo, kind of, they're not moving. And we always told them, have you personally reached out and just checked in on them and told them, here's a list of properties that have been on the market for more than 4 months in your area with price cuts. Maybe there's some value there, right? So just re-engage them through actual potential opportunities.
Yeah, or this just hit the market and it's exactly what you said you were looking for. Do you want to go?
Something new on the market, what's been on the market that's been stale. Maybe there's negotiation opportunity for them to get back in.
Okay. You guys ready? Let's go to negotiation and deal dynamics, guys. What strategies work in bidding wars, including escalation clauses?
Strategies like a time frame, like we're doing a highest and best time frame, tomorrow by 5 p.m. That's usually what I see when there's, multiple offers on a property. I think that's
I think
works. What else, Dan? What else?
I think the agents that somehow keep all the brokers with different offers, happy and willing to submit offers gets the highest offer, right? Is like keeping everybody at bay, communicating and getting them, encouraging them to submit offers typically is without giving away the secret. escalation clauses, they've come up more in the last 2 years than I've heard in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
They typically don't have any traction in New York City, just because the agents really aren't drafting contracts here, right? So you go to New Jersey, you put an escalation clause and you could actually
Yeah.
share the contract, right, of what the other offer was. But it does come up. I would say the problem is sellers and brokers are not familiar with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not really doing that here in New York.
Yeah, I haven't seen a
Yeah.
lot of that either. But Dan, back to your point about, the broker that can get the multiple offers. And and you also mentioned communication. And I think that this is where also I think really good brokers are very strategic and mindful, is that you want to be careful too, because when you do a highest and best, which I think is a pretty fair way of, choosing for your seller, which one to go with, you just got to be so careful. Like if another deal comes through, or the buyer comes up again, and beats out that first one, you got to be very mindful and strategic with your seller about whether or not you want to take that second offer, which is higher, but you already agreed to the first one. And you might end up losing both. So I think there's just such great, strategy there for agents to really learn how to navigate through that. In the best way possible for their seller, and also best in class.
Yeah, and we're advisors, so I think at every point during the process, you have to go over what are the risks associated with this strategy.
And discuss,
Right.
communicate.
Exactly.
Here are the different outcomes. What do you want to do?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys, here we go. We're going to hit it, right? How can agents prepare and navigate private exclusives and off-market deals? There was a question earlier on today saying, how do we convince the buyer agreement to sign the agreement when there's all these private exclusives? So how do agents prepare for and navigate private exclusives in this changing environment we're in?
Well, I'm told.
Noah, what are
correct
private
me,
exclusives? I don't even
that
know.
private,
Yeah,
we have
keep us
access.
moving.
Uh-oh.
We have access
Don't
to all the
trap me.
private exclusives. So if you want to show anything, you can just call up Dan Morello at Compass. And there's
And just be clear, the reason why we did that is because there's companies out there that prohibit us from sharing our private exclusives.
Okay,
We said
so
we'd share them, and then they said we can't share them. So it's one of the things we're fighting for.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here.
Well, I guess
yeah,
to navigate that, though, to answer your question, is I think
Yes.
broker relationships are hugely important. I mean,
Exactly.
all of our agents talk to each other, especially the agents that swim in the same ponds, right?
Right.
Like,
said earlier.
I know, like my Jim St. Andre he's got his 10 brokers that he goes to for a lot of different things. Like, what do you have off market? What do you have coming to market? Do you have a buyer for this? Like, that's brokerage, right? Especially at the higher end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
Totally.
about like relationships, that you have, like Dan said, with other brokers and
Yeah.
things of that nature. Otherwise, I think it's a sensitive topic.
Okay. I got a good one here. Let's say you got a seller floating on the river Nile. How do you manage or reset sellers' price expectations, including in the luxury and high end?
Oh gosh. First of all, I think that if you're constantly communicating with your seller consistently, and this is something I think when we talk about consistency in practices, right, Dan and Itzy, every week we should be updating our client, not just on the phone, but in writing, about what we've done to market their property, how many phone calls that we got, how many meetings did we have or appointments, and what the feedback was. And then after 3 months, and they're receiving these reports on a weekly basis. It says 0 people showed up at your open houses, 0 people made an offer, and I've done X, Y, and Z to market it on multiple platforms and did videos and et cetera, et cetera. So you take your hard work out, which is your being available for the open houses. You take the fact that you've done all the marketing out of the equation. What is left? Price. But it's all about setting that stage with your client. So that communication in writing is super powerful when you can actually say, hey, here's all I've done, and just list it out for your client in the past 3 months to market your property, to show your property, the feedback that I've gotten so far, and there's nothing left except for price. So I think it's a great
I'd say that's perfect advice. Is you're playing offense instead of defense, right? If you're always playing offense with the sellers, right? What happens is agents, they don't have any showings, they haven't done anything to market it, and they're saying, my seller hasn't called me. It's kind of like a pot of water in the other room. You're not sure if it's boiling or not, right? Because you haven't checked on it. So, and those are the agents that typically lose the listing, don't get the price reduction, because what's happening is the seller is now blaming who? They're blaming the agent. I haven't even talked to my agent.
Well,
I would add to that also, I think that sending them data in terms of, look at this just went into contract, or
Yep, update on the market.
this is new on the market, and it's a comp to yours, and it's 2 million less, you know. And I think that
Right.
Dan said sometimes the agents are afraid to call and say, look, I haven't, because some agents are doing things, but they're getting nothing. So you have to be comfortable being honest. You know, that's part of all of the things we're talking about: honesty, transparency. You have to be honest and say, look, we're not priced right. Maybe I gave you this price because this is what I thought at the time we listed it, but clearly, you know, here's what's happening. Another thing that you can do is ask your colleagues to come in and get bring in like 10 experts in that do most of the deals in that price point or that building or that, and say, what do you think? And then go back to your seller and say, you know, we haven't received an offer. It's been X time. I brought in 10 of the top brokers that do all the 2 bedrooms on the upper, or whatever it is. And here's what they're thinking. Let's work together. Let's have a strategy. What's your goal? You know, and I think that that's what you got to do.
And that all helps. Let me just say, guys, flip it around a little bit. You got to go in the mindset of the seller just for a second. Stop thinking like a broker. Think like a seller. These guys are going through stages of grief. You could look it up yourself. 5 stages of grief. You got denial up here and you got acceptance over here. They're in denial. To get to acceptance and make a decision, you got to get angry. You got to start bargaining. You got to go into depression, and then you get into the acceptance stage. When they're blaming you guys, they're in the anger. They're in the anger stage, and then they start bargaining, right? Well, let's do a 1% cut, not a 6% cut. And then I don't care anymore. Screw you. I'll do whatever you want. They get depressed, and then they make a decision, right? So think about what they're doing. Everything you guys said here, right? Providing clarity, providing information, providing what you've done as an agent to market the listing. All of that helps that person move through those stages and make that acceptance decision, which is
I like that analogy. No, I never heard that before. I love that.
That's what it's all about. It's all about psychology, baby.
I have to tell you, it's true. I'm literally I'm in contract to sell my house right now, right? And I went through all those stages, including the anger stage about like my broker sucks. And then I finally got an offer, and I was $30,000 apart, and I was in contract to buy something else. So I needed this offer, and I was saying, screw this guy. And I said to my wife, what should I do? She goes, what would you tell your agents to do? And I was like, damn it.
Damn it.
and I accepted the offer. So
okay.
My mom is selling hers. She just went through all of that too.
Yeah.
She's mad at the broker. I'm trying to navigate this. It's like, and then they got an offer, and it's above that. It's so true. You just, the stages. That is spot on.
Well, thank you for validating that. It is definitely true. And I think if agents understand all of this, I think it'll help in getting to that point and getting a decision. Little shameless plug here, guys. If you find yourself in a real tricky situation, John Walkup, Johnny Charts, the one and only, and myself, we have Advisor, the solution advisor. You guys can come to us and we'll commission a report with a virtual appraisal. We're here to help to get deals done. I ran out of time, guys. I ran out of time. We're at an hour already.
This is what I want more. Yeah, keep going. Come on, Noah.
I hope. Well, I mean, I could go on. You want a couple more questions really quick? Want a couple more questions?
12. I think people want to.
Okay. Maybe we'll do this
again.
We'll
do another one.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do another one. We can do
another one.
I just want to thank the Old City crew, Juliet Clapp, Itzy Garay, Dan Morello. You guys rock. Thank you for sharing all of your thoughts and wisdom. And I want to thank you guys for coming and joining and submitting these excellent questions. Please email everyone up here and thank them. Start a relationship with them. Maybe you'll do a deal with them someday, or they'll help you get a deal done. Thank you,
Noah. If you can get the next panel to be Heiberger, Malin, and Golub, and then the show's over. Let's do that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's almost like the night shift, like at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, cocktail hour kind of a thing. And then
I would agree.
We'll work on it. Cheers, everybody.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.